Did you know that if you watch a video on YouTube and change the speed setting to something like 1.5 or 1 3/4 or even 2 times faster, say that there's a video that you want to get through before you jump on a live stream, and then you fire up your own live stream, that the YouTube player will play the audio back at an accelerated rate, even though it can't possibly be playing it 1.5 times faster because it's playing it in real time? It's an interesting thing. I did not know that. Hello, everybody out there in Sublime Text Land. How are we doing tonight? Today's live stream is going to be doing some more work on override audit and working towards our ultimate goal of adding the ability to create some patches. And there's a little bit of work I did between the last stream and this stream that we'll go over in just a second. But otherwise, oops, pardon me. Otherwise, we haven't really done too much. Let me just adjust the boom here. Get that into what seems to be a little bit of a better position before we start, something that's not coffee cup adjacent. Yep, that's looking like it's probably pretty good. So what was I saying there? I did some work between the things. I haven't really done too much besides that, so we're going to be covering more on that tonight. And with luck, we may have something to show for having a full patch generated out into a a view, which is close to what we ultimately want. Ultimately, we want to be able to save those files to disk and then open them in Sublime, which is pretty easy to do from a plugin. And that's going to require a setting for where we're going to store those. And that's because we're going to be able to have to create sidecar files as well. And well, let's see, we are at 8 o'clock, so I got a little tickle in my throat, but let's go ahead and throw it to the intro graphic to get this party started. We can officially say hello, fellow Sublime Text Fanatics. OdatNurd here. Welcome to the first live stream of October, where we will be working on some more override audit functionality, in particular, hopefully getting into a complete patch creation for the textual version of the patches. We already know how to generate diffs using difflib. We have most, or I think all of the core components that we need for this. It's all just a matter of taking all of those bits and putting them together. And as always, if you are watching live, hello out there in Sublime Text Land. Feel free to hop into the chat and ask any questions you like. I keep a chat window open on an alternate monitor where I hopefully see it scrolling out of the corner of my eye while I'm pondering my latest blunder. And if you have any questions at all, go ahead and ask them, even if it's nothing related to what's currently happening on the screen. All else being equal, if I am encountering a terrible bug, I am looking forward to getting away from that and answering another question. And if you're watching these live streams after the fact and you have any questions on the content of these or anything like that, you can drop those down in the comments section below. You can also hit me on Twitter at OdatNurd for things like video suggestions or comments or questions as well, if you have any of those. And I do have another channel which is linked down in the description of this, where I do weekly videos every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific. A new video drops. The most recent one was a affair on how to use projects and workspaces in Sublime Text, which is a pretty interesting topic. It comes up from time to time. It seems to be something that people do not fully understand or know that they can even take advantage of. I'm also going to apologize in advance, but I have a little bit of a frog in my throat here, a little tickle, if you will. So I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. Now, the first thing we're going to note, though, as we roll on into these live stream and get things going, is that if you recall from the previous stream, we or yeah, I believe it was the previous stream, we added the syntax for our diff patches to make them distinct from regular diffs, basically by just patching in or including in the syntax. As a matter of fact, I could probably even do a little something like this. uh, that one there. As we can see, we have a first line match to be able to pick these, a different extension and a different top level scope, but otherwise it's just standard diff syntax, at least for now. And as a part of that, we added some settings. I added a new one to this. Now what we have in here is translate tabs to spaces false and detect indentation true. Those were there before, and I had word wrap set to false here as well, which is my own personal preference, but a few of the other syntaxes do the same thing, because particularly in a diff where you're going to see output akin to something like this with the lines for pluses and minuses, it can be a little tricky to read if you happen to have longer code that just goes over the edge of the window. I personally don't like that, and so I try to make things not work that way. I've added in here also in that commit and merged it together the trim trailing white space on save and turning that off. And the purpose of setting translate tabs to spaces off and detect indentation true um, is that when we're working with a patch, and to do that, we're going to go ahead and look over at this. We can see here, these are tabs in this file. I don't personally use tabs generally. It's important for there to be tabs because, as we also mentioned in the last stream, the unified diff format requires that in between the file name and the date information, there is a tab, just so that it's possible to determine exactly what the file name is. So the first four characters are the header information, and then everything up to but not including the tab is the name of the ultimate file being generated, and that's why that tab is in there. Presuming, I guess, that people are might put spaces in file names, but they're not going to put in tabs. And it's important to note that if you had a patch like this sample patch, you might get it from someone and open it up, and there's like context lines, or you want to be editing some of these lines, so you might go in and delete some of these lines, and then to get do some stuff, and then go ahead and put those characters back in when you're done. And as a part of that editing, if this file was originally tabs, but you have translate tabs to spaces set to true, then you broken the patch, if you will. You'd probably do that more in the plus lines than the minus lines, sort of like so. But you don't want to break the patch and stop the system's ability to be able to apply it to anything. And that's why that setting is in there, to try and, if you as a user decide, no, I don't like tabs, I prefer spaces, and I don't even detect indentation because I want this to happen, then for patch files, we want to say, you know what, let's take that back, let that indent, because you don't want to break those files. And that's why, and this was brought up by someone in the, I created a PR to add similar settings to the diff package, and it was mentioned in the comments there that trim trailing whitespace on save is probably a good candidate for that as well in the process of editing a patch, because trailing whitespace might be important, particularly in these context lines, the lines at the before and after the changes, if there are any. Because in this case there aren't any, because this is the entire file content. But in these context type lines, like these three here and all of these three here, um, it's important that if there was trailing whitespace, that it stay there, because the patch mechanism is going to be looking to see that it finds this exact text. And if there used to be trailing whitespace and you converted it, the patch isn't going to apply anymore. So I went ahead and added that setting in. And the other thing that I did, now if you'll remember, this is the diff single command, which is this command here. If we were to say bulk diff single override, or single package, this works for both. If you pick single package, it shows you a list of packages, like so. And if you do single override, it shows you a list of packages. And then when you pick one, it shows you a file within there that represents an override that is in there, which, as we can see here, this package, the diff package is currently overridden because of that pull request that I made. So I have the new version linked in here. But both of those things are handled by this code here. And as we can see, if you were given a package, just go ahead and run the thing. Otherwise, we have to collect the list of packages. And then when it's loaded, we do this. We show the package list, which uses a quick panel to show you all the packages. We saw that in both of those things. And uh, it may generate some sort of error. And this is also the part where if it figures out that you have the appropriate information, do stuff. So if there wasn't a package, then it has to show you the package list. But if there was a package and it's not in the package list, display an error. If it was in the list, see if there was an override, and if not, then you need to prompt for one. Otherwise, do some checks, actually do the override, say there's no diffs. And up here, when we show the package list, we use a quick panel to show package pick is what's picked when someone chooses something. If they chose something, then ask for an override unless we're doing something in bulk, and show override list shows all the overrides in a quick panel. And when it's done, it calls file pick, and file pick actually calls diff override. So this is the version that happens if you run this command with a package and an override directly, and it has to wend its way through all of this code in order to eventually diff that single override. And we replicated this code in our new command over here for create patch. Whoops, sorry, let's got to do that first. This one here. And after I was done, it occurred to me the whole reason that I implemented the, as we can see on line 6 here, the package browser and the package resource browser, was to be able to prompt for an override resource of some sort. And this is actually used in create override. You give it a list of things, and it does the exact same stuff. There's no way to create an override in diff currently. But there we go. And that code already does all of this stuff that diff single is doing, prompting you for a package, making sure it exists, prompting you for an override, and eventually calling it back to you. So I just went ahead and refactored this. So now we can see we get the call package collection thread to get the list of all packages. And then we, in our loaded, once it's done, if we were given a package, but it's not one we loaded, we can't do anything. If we were told that to use a package only and we have a package now, then call createpatch to do something right away. If we were told it's not package only, but we do have a package and an override, create a patch right away. Otherwise, get the list of candidate packages, which is only packages that contain overrides, because those are the only ones that can contain, you can create a patch for. Create a filter to make sure we discard any packages that are currently disabled. We're not going to allow anybody to create patches for files for packages they don't have enabled. And then if you want a package only, you call the package browser to create, and when it browses the package list, and when it's done, it calls create patch, which is the name of the package, which you can see is there. Otherwise, it asks for you to select an override from that list of packages. And it occurs to me I may have done something a little funky here, because it really seems like this. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's finding the packages like so. So yeah, okay. No, that's right. So basically, all of this, I confused myself there. I haven't gotten a lot of sleep. I've been on vacation, and that's going to be my excuse here. But as we can see over here in diff single, there's a lot of lines of code here for doing what essentially we can do over here in just this stuff from lines realistically 40 to 46. These lines right here are the bulk of all of this code right here. And so I went ahead and refactored that, and we can see there's a to-do command here to remind me that I should do the same thing here in this file as I did over here, because that's just so much nicer. Let's go ahead and put that back to the way that it was originally, like so. So I did that. So what we're left with is me forgetting how to work the keyboard, like so. The create patch item here either creates a patch for a specific package or for a specific resource in a specific package. It doesn't actually do anything, it just displays the log, but we can test this all out. If we create a patch for a single package and it was, say, diff, then it's creating a package for package diff. Or if we do it again and pick a different package like makefile, then it's doing it for makefile. And if we wanted to create a patch for a single file, first we have to choose, say, diff, and then we could choose something like sidebar, and now it's creating a patch for packages diff sidebar.sublime menu, that one exact file that we chose. And we can also verify in this regard. And to do this, we're going to have to open an override report like so. That if I was to right click on this, I can say create patch for default, and that works. And if I said again for diff and said create patch, that works the way we want. We might bulk diff this to see that there's a weird change in here. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. But now if I was to right click on this, I can still create patch for diff. All of these cases all work. So we've reached ourselves at a point where all we have to do is fill out what create patch is going to do, and we'll be creating a patch for our results. Excuse me, I'm drinking a little bit of water there because that throat tickle is a bad one. Now, I think I have a sample file. I think, did I have a, oh, I might have removed it. User OA patch. No, I think I might have deleted it. I had a sample command for doing a thing like this, just as a proof of concept. So if we think about this logically, the way we've outlined this, our create patch method here needs to either gather all of the files in a single package or just a single override and do something to create a patch for them. And the thing we need to do that is the information on a package, which is something that comes from, I don't think I have this file open here. In this file, we have this PackageInfo class that contains all kinds of information. As we can see here, the name of the package, its metadata, whether it's a dependency, whether it's disabled, the location of the shipped and installed packages, if any, the place where the unpacked package is, the times of the two package files, if there are any, the full content of the file, of the package, unpacked package content, and the Sublime package, a list of overrides, a list of expired overrides, a list of unknown overrides, how many of those unknown overrides might be filtered, and a setting for knowing what the binary file patterns might be for a particular package. Or particularly, these get injected in from your override audit settings to allow you to, in your override audit settings, to have a different set of binary file patterns used for diffs in override audit as opposed to what Sublime normally uses that setting for. So the default is it would use your user preferences, but if you want to, you can set that setting in the override audit settings. This has all the information we need and the methods we need in order to figure out what we're doing. And technically, it also creates diffs too. I'm going to hide the sidebar for a minute just to give us some more room here. So realistically, that is giving us the bulk of what it is we need to do here. And this can just call out, because we know when this gets called, it has a package info, which is all the information for a specific package, and it also has the override inside that package. And if override is none, then the result of that is all of the files, right? As opposed to just one. Now, something that just occurs to me here, and we're going to create a patch for a single file in diff. The the unpacked files, the unknown override diff.sublime settings doesn't appear in here. So I think it probably should. And I think that I probably bunked that up, but I should have set this to be true if I had to guess. Let's reload that. As a matter of fact, let's do the thing where I pop the console out into another window, and yeesh, that is a large window. It's meant for the other screen. I'm going to scoot that over there. That's the window that I keep for the purposes of being able to see the console while I'm working, though of course, as we know, here in the video, I'll try to remember to open that if I'm referring to any messages, but this is just a thing I do so that I can see the results of things in the console while I'm editing, so I get as much room as possible, particularly when I'm streaming and I have a lower screen resolution than I otherwise would. So I think now that that's in place, if I said create patch for a single file and pick diff, there's the Sublime settings appearing in there as well. Perfect. That is what we want. And I think that was something that was included in here. Yeah. So what we might do is stage that and amend that previous commit like so. And that's not necessary for that part. It's also not necessary for diffing. I think that's how that ended up that way. Because in a diff, you don't really there's nothing for it to diff against. Now, theoretically, you don't need to create a patch for just an unknown file because you could just give the file to somebody and say here. It actually takes more space. I mean, an example of that is this right here. This is an example of removing a file, which is a big diff segment that says remove every line. And here's an example of adding a file. It's just add every lines with no context. But it seems to me as a user experience thing, if you're going to be able to add that into a whole package patch, it seems like you want to do it here too, particularly because you might not realize that that file was there and needed to be patched if it didn't appear in the list. Of course, that's something we can always redact that change later if we want to. We could add a setting for it. That is no big deal. Now, what we actually want here, I think, is to accumulate not only with the package info, but just a list of everything that should be included in the patch, which I think should just be the list of all the overrides or the specific override that you were given. So the idea would be, if we call this with, just to explain it another way, if we call this with a package and override is none, that means we want to create a patch for the whole package. So we would need to gather every override in that package and every unknown override, which basically, say for the diff package is, in this case, everything in it, including this file that doesn't exist in the underlying package at the moment. If you provided an override, then you do just one, like for example, diff.py or the unknown settings file here. But if we had a method for creating a patch where you passed it a package info so it knows the name and can get at the override information, and just a list of everything to include in the patch, then that could create that output by just iterating over all the overrides. And it doesn't matter to that thing whether there's one thing in there or no things in there or many things in there. So what we might say, and I think this is one of those things where we might go ahead and work through exactly what it is that we want it to do by implementing it. And then once we see how that all shakes out, that's when we go back and try to, tighten it up and say, how could we make this look a little bit better? So an example of that might be FileList is just an empty list, right? And if you were actually given an override, then you could say FileList is equal to override, like this. Actually, maybe we don't even need to do that, right? We could do this. And we would remove those logs because, whoops, we know they both of those things work. And what we would actually do is something like, well, actually, I guess we could do that the other way, couldn't we? We could log patching in %s and then a /n and then a %s, and that would be packageinfo.name and stir. Oh yeah, maybe this one like that. Okay, I'm gonna reload that. That seems to work. So if I did this and said create patch, it's an empty list, which is, well, like what we would expect. And if I did it on this one, instead of create a patch for just this, well, you know, I kind of would have expected that to work. That is interesting. Just because I said that, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and undo this a bunch just to make sure that I'm not insane, because I'm pretty sure I tested that. So I'm going to put those back and then paste that in like so and reload that. Okay, so now if I did this, create patch for this, create patch for package diff. That's interesting. So I may have screwed something up there as a part of that refactor. That is intriguing. Let's take a look and see what dumb thing we did there. We're not loaded the thread, the package, the override. Well, let's do this. Print package only, package and override, like this, and reload that. Now let's see what happens if I do it for diff and say create patch for diff. We get true, diff, none. So package only, yes, the package name is diff, no override. If we did it for syntax diff, like so, and create the patch, true, diff, syntax diff. So that part seems, oh, package only is set to true when it shouldn't be in that case. Oh, that's a context command problem. Okay, that's probably something that we screwed up in the other thing. Context diff. Or sorry, context create patch, excuse me. This. Let's try this. True if this, else false. There may be something hinky going on with that. So if I did it on the name of this, that's for the package diff, and it's true the way we would expect. And if I did it on, say, the context menu and said create patch, it still says that. Why is this the case? Print context dot package only and is package diff. And then, oh, we'll also do this. Sometimes you think you got everything all straightened away, and that's an or. And we'll go ahead and put that one back to the way it was before, because clearly that fix didn't do anything. Oh, shoot. That did not redact nearly as many changes as it could have. And now we need to quit and restart in order to fix the problem. There we go. Okay, so over here, if we do it on this and say create patch, we get true, 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 none. Huh, that's interesting. Oh, I guess maybe we need to do a little bit of this too. Just to make sure we can see. As a matter of fact, we might even replace all of these with a different thing so that they're distinguishable. And reload that. That works. And let's see what we got now. We do it here. True, true, true. So package only was true. Is package diff is set to true. And package only or is package diff is true. That's right. So that's good. And if I did it on context and said create patch, then we get false, true, and true because it's an or. Right. So the real question is, why is package diff set to true in that case? Because it doesn't seem like it should be. Oh, I see. I see the logic I was going for here. R type is the report type. If all reports that start with a colon are special reports like the package report or the override report. Now, for example, I think it would work in here, but it doesn't work in the diff. So if I did this and said create patch here, now it's creating a patch for that, and we can see creating a patch for a default. It's only in a diff report that it's broken. Okay, so that makes sense for the purposes of this. Is package diff is telling me whether this report overall is it's telling me specifically if the view is diff for a package. I guess we probably want is package diff package only is set to true if package only is set to true, or is package diff and not package only? No. What's the good logic here for this? Now keep in mind, yeah, this is specifically for the context version of the command that things are broken. So when do we want the package only value to be set to true? We want it to be set to true if the context is package only, which happens as we can see here. If I right click on the name of a package here and choose create patch, the first item is true in that dump. So that's a case where it's a package only because I selected a package. Another place it's a package only is when I do it on the name of a tab that represents a specific report, like so, in which case we can see package only is false because this isn't a right click on the name of a package. But what it is a report that's based on a package. So those are both the cases for that. But where we're falling down is this case where the context isn't package only. So does it logically make sense to say we want this to create a patch only for a complete package in the case where this context is just the name of a package, or if this is a package diff and not package only? I think that might be the way to go. Now let's take a look and see what's happening over here. Not a heck of a lot. Someone is talking in the Discord about the ability to restore deleted repositories. I'm not sure what the deal on that is. Let's go ahead and close that for the time being. So let's go ahead and do this, okay? Because we're going to do that, and then we're going to do this. And then here we can say is package only and is report for package that, and then here's the value here. So we reload that, and these are our cases. So here we can say, is it a package only? No, and that represents the name of a package, but it is a report for a package, so say package only. Here in the override report on the name of a package, if we say create patch, we end up with, is package only? Yes. Is it a report for a package? No, it's not. It's an override report. So we still want to do it. And here's where it gets all sketchy. If I do it here on the name of this, then it is a package only and it's a report for a package. But if I do it on the name of an override and say create patch, is it a package only? No. Is it a report for a package? Yes. So it's saying true when it shouldn't. And just out of coincidence, what does this one say? Is package only? Yeah, so that comes out the same. So I think what we want is context package only, or is package diff and not context dot package only. Crap. One of my brackets went awry. There we go. Well, we'll just quit and restart. We got no problem with that. Let's close that for the time being as well. That's just an extra window we don't care about. So here we go. I got a lot of tabs over here. Let's close that one and that one. And we'll leave that one open. Diff single we don't care about right now. I've already talked about that. And the browsing code we don't care about either. Let's make that nicer. So here, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to do create patch for package default. Is package only true is reported for, so that's on the name of a package, so it works. If it's on the name of an override and we say create patch, then it's not package only and it's not a report for a package, so it's false, which is what we would expect. Now over here in this single diff report just for the diff package on the tab create patch, it's not a package, not on the name of a package, but it is the report for a package, so the value is true. Here we should see that it is on the name of a package and it's a report for a package, so it should say true, true, and true. True, 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 the way we would expect. And when we do it on a file, we're expecting it should say false because it's not the name of a package, true because it's a report for a package, and then false because we've selected the name of a file. But still no. Huh. Maybe I'm going about this in a little bit of a funky way. We might find it easier. You can diff. Oh, I see. There's another thing. You can reference or comment on multiple lines in a pull request or diff view. I got to stop getting distracted. See, this is exactly why you could hop into the live chat for this stream. When I'm having a problem, I want to get easily distracted. But also that icon keeps flashing, and it is my raison d'etre to look and see if someone's asking a question. In any case, maybe we want package only to be false if there's an override. Do it the other way. We might say false if context dot, oh, and I can't remember. Let's do it over here. Oh, I don't think that's the right thing. Oops. Command context is what we want. We want to know if there is an override. Package and override. False if context has target. Else. Oh, and that's one of those. Something like that might do what we want. If the context has a target, then it's false, and otherwise it's true, because the command knows to enable itself if there's a target, or the command is only enabled if you right click on the name of an override, which has target, as we can see here. It has a package and it has an override. Or it's package only, which means you did it on the name of a package and there is no override. Or it's a package diff, and is package diff means that it's a tab that contains just a diff report for a specific package. And in that case, the command is enabled. So we know at that point there is a context, probably. Context can't be none, I would imagine. It wouldn't say one of those things. So we know it's false if there's a target. Otherwise, if it just has a target. Oh yeah, sorry. Package only is false if there's a package and an override, and in all the other cases where it would be called, it's because it's a right click on a package name or in a report. So I think that would do what we want. So here we are in the override report, and of course the command should not be enabled up there at all, and it's not enabled over here. But on the name of this package, if we create a patch for default, is package only true? You know what? Let's say on package name, just so that that's less confusing. So here we go. If I say create patch for default, did I do it on a package name? Yes. Is this report for a package? No, but it's still true because there's a package. If I do it on the name of an override and say create patch, and then we can see, did I do it on a package name? No, but is it the report for a package? No, so false. We're doing a whole single thing, and as we can see, it figured that part out. Now, on the tab for a diff report, we can create a patch for diff. And is it on a package name? No, but it is a report for packages, so do something, which is, again, what we would expect, but what it's been doing all this time. And now, on the name of a override inside of one of these things. Is it on a package name? No. Is it in a report for a package? Yes, but it was on override, so it's false in that case. So I think that means this. Now, false if context has target. So if context has target is true, then the value of this is false. And if the value of context has false, the value is true. So I would imagine it's easy enough to just say not has target like this. Let's verify that one. So this is an example exactly of how I work often, and we've probably seen this a lot if you watch a lot of my streams. I tend to, if there's something that's complicated and I'm not sure exactly how or why, I would try to reason myself through it and build it up slowly. And once I have something that I know that it works, then it's time to try to condense it down into that code that looks so great when you show it to someone and say, hey, check this out. Doesn't this look tight? It's because you did a lot of other work behind the scenes. So in an override report, the command, it doesn't enable itself on the name of a package. If we create a patch, it's on a package name. It's a report for a package. No, but it's still then because it's on the name of a package, on the name of an override. In an override report, if we create patch, then we get, is it on a package name? No. Is it a report for a package? No. So it's not package only, it's the full override, which is what we would expect. On the tab, create patch for diff, and it's not on a package name, but it's a package report, so it's true. Inside of the report, if we do it on the name of a package, create patch, it's on the name of a package. It also happens to be in a report, so that's a double true, but it's still true. On the name of one of these files, if we create a patch for it, it's not on a package name. It isn't a report for a package, but it was on an override, so this is not package only. And again, it's not, the pop-up isn't agreeing with what the console says because this line right here hasn't been changed yet. And just to check, what happens if I do it on an override that doesn't exist? If I do this on these unknown overrides, it's not on a package name, it is on an override, it's false. So we would swap this value to be this. And all of these lines can go away. Whoops, like so. And so the only change in here is that. I'm going to hit this. And let's go ahead and test this all out now. And now the pop-up should agree. So we're going to close that. And we're not going to see anything in there anyway. In an override report, if I do it on a package, it's creating a patch for the package. If I do it on an override, it's doing it for the full override, which is what we would expect. If we had a package report, all we can click on is packages. This is something we haven't tested. But if I wanted to do this, can I create a patch for default? Yes, and it's the whole package. Can I do it for this? The answer should be no, because there's no unpacked package. That part still works. That I remember. Yeah, there's no good way for us to know that per se. Well, we could add it in as a matter of fact, but it requires more information because which you actually could throw that in there. You can only create a patch for something if there's an unpacked folder specifically, and everything else works that way because it's only gathering packages that know how to do that. I think it wasn't doing that for is enabled because it would require more work, but there's actually a setting for that. So maybe we fix that next too. So here in an override report, that is on just the package, and here it was working on the override, which is what we would expect. And if we have the bulk diff, this is the bulk diff, excuse me. I forgot that thing was there. I thought I was doing it there, but here, create patch for, it's the whole thing on this thing that is an override, create patch for, it's that, and here on this whole package, create patch for, package diff thusly. And we're seeing in the console, it's printing all that information out. Now, what we would actually need to do in this case, now I think what we're going to do first off is open this repository, and we're going to stage just this change like so, and amend the previous commit to put that fix in place. And we're going to amend this one as well, and then we'll go back and fix the other thing if we can. Where was that true, false, true thing coming from? Did I just accidentally commit a change to a file that I should not have? Is there still a print in here where there shouldn't be? Let's see. True diff none. That really seems like print doesn't appear in here. Oh, derp, it's right there. Okay. Yeah, that was that other thing we were doing. Okay. I am really out of sorts. Okay. Once again, making lateral strides to put ourselves back into the position we thought we were in at the start of the stream. And this is why rigorous testing is totally a good idea. Now, if we want to continue with this, let's do this. Now, what we want here is the list of every override. Now, I think what we want here for this purpose is override report. Because what this is doing is getting the list of normal overrides and the list of unknown overrides and combining them together. So I think we want that and that. I'm going to copy that and bring it over here. And these should be package sets. File set is equal to that. And then I think let's try this here. Again, this is one of those cases where we're gonna verify for our purposes is equal to list file set, because that is actually, I mean, if we were to zoop in there into the definition of that, it's returning a package file set, which is literally a Python set, just one that's being set aside to work for this. Now we'll reload that. Now, if we do this for a single override like this, we should always just see that one item, which is there. We don't see it until after the pop-up closes. And that's because it's hitting this one. But if we hit something that was just a package, now we're doing override files here. So if we do it on default and say create patch, we should see just paste from history because that's the only file there. On HTML, we should see two files when we do it. We say create patch 4, and we end up with miscellaneous and snippets, which is those two files there. Now, if we did it for diff, it's the whole package. It's the context menu, the syntax, the sidebar menu, the plugin, and syntax test.diff. So there's the diff, there's the context menu, there's the plugin, there's the syntax, and there's the sidebar menu. But what we don't have in here is the diff.sublime settings, because it's not an override, it's an unknown override. So if we swap this like this, and we did it on default, we should end up with not doing that. I end up with multiples of the same thing. That's interesting. Doop. Okay. I mean, yeah, it should still work in there just the same. Create patch 4. And it's nothing in this case because there's no unknown overrides in that one. And as by the same token, in HTML, there's, oops, I keep doing the wrong thing. I'm used to testing the other thing. Create patch 4. That is going to be nothing again. But here in diff, if we create a patch for the diff package, it's going to be just that one file. So we could say this, for example, reload the thing so it works. And now in default, it is, ooh, oh, excuse me. I think it's something like that. Keep forgetting the magic of that. Okay, so on this, it's just the one file. On Apple script, create patch, it's just the one file. On HTML, it should be the two files. There we go. And here in diff, we do it. And yeah, well, you know what? Let's leave that open for the time being. In diff, create patch. If nothing else, that's showing that this menu layout needs to change because you're going to hit the wrong thing. I have some ideas for that as well. It's creating it for the diff, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 files in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And importantly, you'll note that the very first item in here is the diff sublime settings, which didn't appear before. So that one appears. Context.sublime menu is in there. As a matter of fact, going top down, syntax test, yes. Context menu, yes. Diff.py, yes. Diff.sublime settings, yes. Diff syntax, yes. Sidebar sublime menu, yes. So that has gathered for us the actual files inside that package that we want to create this thing for. And now we don't even need that. We can say FileList is equal to a list that contains that or that. And is it like that at all? Okay, beauty. So let's double check over here. Oh, stop doing that. We're going to do that again in just a second, though. So create the patch. It's showing the one file for diff. we create that, we are seeing all of the files just as we did before. There's the Sublime settings file that's there. And, because I keep doing it, if we bulk diff this and choose it here, create patch for diff, it's still all of the files there, or create patch for this is the single file. And here, create patch for is still the single file. So that is doing what we want for that. And this can go away now because we don't need that either. And you know what? Just again for our edification here. Let's try something here. Do I have enough of these things yet? Okay. There's probably a better way to do that, but in all likelihood, what we want to say is there's /ns in there. So if we commented out that and we commented out that and added on this one, dialog equals true, oops, but we spelled it correctly. And this is a great example of avoiding a greater problem by focusing too much on debug logic. But if we want to create a patch for diff, yeah, that's not, I mean, it is what I was expecting, but also, not. Maybe I shouldn't repr that in this case, because now it's not the thing that it used to be before. How about that? Okay, we just need another new line in there because that is pretty rough. /n/n. There we go. We might even, be able to fix that even better. But if we create a patch in diff, we get all of those items. And if we did it for just one file and say create patch, you just get the one thing. So it's giving us the same information we had before. Now, I think maybe we don't need to list FileList here like this. Because it's, I guess, already a list in this case. Oh, that was because the other code that was in there. So here we go. Create patch for. That part still works. Fantastic. Close that. And close that. Like so. And now we're going to go ahead and stage that and amend that as well. Now there's one last thing we could do. But let's not do it here, but we'll add a to do here. Use the report settings in a report to know if a file has an unpacked folder and disable if it doesn't. Just so that that's something to remind myself of. So we can get on with the actual content that we wanted to do in our remaining hour here and see how close we can get to that. And if it seems a little untenable, we can always swing back to here. I think that might be the way to go. Let's get the coffee cup out of the way. We got some hardcore coffee drinking to do here. And so we have that can go over there. There's the settings. We don't need to apply those specifically. That's just going to automatically happen. And we don't need diff single anymore. Now that I had showed you the to do thing that we're doing there. So all things being equal, we know all of this stuff works. So let's get rid of this file And we don't need to know that anymore. Let's get rid of that as well. Well, actually, no, we'll leave that. Because we can see how this is currently implemented. There's extra stuff in here. Do we want our patch to have more context lines depending on the user's setting, or should patches always just have 3 context lines? I don't think for our purposes it matters in the patch, but for the purposes of creating a patch smaller, the whole idea of this is a setting you can use. So in the case that you did something like this, you can set this to a larger number than 3 or a smaller number to get more lines of context, including, I suppose, none if you just want to see where these things are without knowing any of the other information. Now, technically, based on the way that this is done, we could try to save this diff as a patch file and it should work. So we don't really care how many lines there are there, but for the purposes of our creating of a thing here, we probably want to keep the context lines as 3 just because it makes your patch a lot smaller. And we don't care about that. And here's how we create some output. Output to view is something that appears in the library. But override diff thread is where the bulk of this stuff works. And there we go. Override diff thread. Before I continue, let's amend that as well before I forget. That's something that we want to do just to make the context items a little smarter. This is the thing where we tell the package what the binary patterns are before we tell it to create the diff, so that it knows that the file is supposed to be binary or not, as we see. And when we call PackageInfo override diff, which we can jump to, it's in the packages.py, what we're actually doing is getting the unpacked and packed contents of the files as lists of lines, and then calling the difflibs item to actually calculate that, and then it's passed back to us in this override diff result thing that nicely sticks the data together, because we need to indent it for use in bulk diff reports. So there needs to be extra indent added in there, and that's going to also carry the message about whether it's an empty result or not, how much indent it has, the names of the files for the generations of other things. So again, for our purposes here, let us implement this exactly as we've done it here. And then as per usual, we can say from import difflib, say, and reload that. That seems like it's probably not too broken. Grady. We would do this in a thread, I think, so that it can calculate all of this information and diffs in the background, because that's what the diff is doing, right? We just looked at that a second ago. Override diff thread is actually doing that very thing. So we might need one of these as well. Now, where is override diff thread? Comes from here. The actual diffing of an override calls this, and the callback is what actually does something with the results, which is why it works the way that it does. So let's see, the callback gets the thread. The thread will have an item named diff, because we can see that happening here. Self.diff is this. So I think for our purposes here, we might save the diff to a file and then get Sublime to open the file. Let's work first on just getting it to generate the appropriate patch. It's probably the nice way to go. So again, let's go ahead and throw something in here like this and say def create patch. And let's say we need to know the window that generated this so we can open the file. We need the package info because that's going to tell us things like the name of the package and such. And we need the patch contents as well. And this is the point where we could zoop that out to here and modify this to say create patch in self.window. It's funny that this is actually being invoked after a thread. It would create another thread. You can never have too many threads in your code. They make it really easy to follow what it's doing. So that's the window. We have the package info, and now we have the file list. Now, we need to do something with this. And what do we actually want to do here? Well, that should be more like that, realistically. So all things told, this should still do the same thing that it did before. So if I did create patch 4, it generates an error because file list is not defined. Oh, yeah, which is this. There's the message there, by the way. It's called patch contents in here. Important to rename all of the things when you do it. So if I said create patch for default, it's just paste from history. If I say create patch for diff, it's all of the files. And if I pick just one of the files when I create the diff or the patch, it's just the one file as one might expect. And we say create a patch for the files in the patch contents list, which are assumed to be resources that are contained in the package info provided. Good enough for now. Now, if we want to save these to a file, then we need to do something like this, which looks like it maybe still loads. Yeah, okay, I got that part right. We need to actually open the file for this thing. And for that, I suppose, we want to look at this. The override revert thread does some stuff. With open, oh, actually we need a name, don't we? Shoop. Whoops. Import os, os.path.userpath. I can't remember the, I don't do it often enough. Python get home directory. Really? Expand user. It works on all platforms. Okay. os.path.expand user. Squiggle. There we go. Equals. Let's comment that out and print os.path.join. The first thing we want to join is os.path.expand user twiddle to go into the home directory and package info .name OA patch, like so. So if we did that and we came over here and did it for default, now this is obviously not the correct file name. Create patch for this, it is going to do nothing. Did that, that's still being called, right? Yeah, okay. Maybe I didn't do that as much as I thought I should. Create patch for. Oh, there must be an exception in there. Okay, well, let's do this then. This is the problem with exception handling, I find. Oops. I don't think we need spell checking nearly as much as that. And if we come back to here and create a patch, yeah, okay. That's an obvious problem. Import OS. Should have known. There we go. So create patch for this, and we end up with home2martin default.oa patch. Okay. Whoops. Let us go ahead and do this. Okay. Is this how this works? Maybe. Let's double check, shall we? Because it never hurts to make sure that you pick the correct item from the stupid menu. Gosh. There we go. Now we're doing exception handling, but we still get to see when there's an error. Probably a good idea to do that almost always. Base is equal to packageinfo.name if len patch contents is less than or equal to 1, else os.path.basename patch contents 0. Yeah, is that lengthy enough? os.path.basename sample slash something.py. Cool. That one I use enough to maybe remember how it's supposed to work. Double check that that works on Windows though. Yeah, that's about what I thought. So we'll add in the path manipulation for the overrides here will not work on Windows. These are things to worry about later, but the basic idea here is instead of packageinfo.name, this should be base, like this. We might even need to do a little bit more work on that. So if we did it like this, it should be a name of, really? Oh, excuse me. I forgot. I broke it on purpose. Is that how that works? Let's re-break this for a second just to make sure, because I totally was not testing what I thought I was testing there. Oh, we're just going to work now, are we? I demand that you crash. I demand it. Not that one. I might win an award for the number of times I misclicked in my own context menu. Global name, fnames is not defined. Right on. Okay, so there we go. We're going to do that. We're going to reload that. We're going to pick this. And if we do a patch for default, we're going to get a file name of default.oa patch. And if we do it for paste from history, like this one, and we choose create patch, then that is still a file named OA. So that's probably not right. Actually, I guess this should be greater than 1, shouldn't it? Actually, it should be not equal to 1. Actually, I think base should be equal to this if the length of patch contents equals 1. Otherwise, packageinfo.name is what I think it should be. Because it should be the base name of the very first and only item in the list if there's exactly 1, because that means you did it on an override. And if you did it on a package, and anything that provides with more than 1 or none, so if you did this on a package that actually doesn't have any overrides, it would be named as the package, which I think makes the most sense in that case. The package reloaded properly, and if I do it on default, I end up with the opposite now. Oh, because there's exactly 1. Well, shoot. I guess that needs a little bit more work there, doesn't it? Override is not none. How about this? Base is equal to base name package content if, oh, sorry, now it needs to go back the other way. Base is equal to packageinfo.name if package only else this part, which we're going to cut and paste. And as an added benefit, it actually almost fits in the whole stupid thing. And now the package has reloaded. If I do it on default and say patch for default, I end up with the file of the wrong thing. Why? Package only if override is none. Because you did it backwards. That's why. That's why that is. But now we got that all sorted out. See, as, you know, sometimes I get the Boolean sense of these things, the flippity floppity in my head. Talking to myself while I'm working is not necessarily the greatest thing for that, but there is default.oa patch, which is great. And if I do it on this and say create patch, then we end up with paste from history.py.oa patch. I think we want to have just the name. Actually, I guess we want that to be slightly different, don't we? Yeah. The name of the file is only informational, but you wanted to know by default what the patch is actually named. We can always prompt the user for this, and this would be the default name, let's say. That's something we could do. So we might also say up here, def default patch file name. And for that, we would need package info, patch contents, and package only, like so. And then this is where we would do this. We'll copy that and paste it here and undent it. And here we can just say fname is equal to default patch file name given a provided package info and patch contents and package only, like so. And we can still print it like this so that we know what we're doing. And how do we want to pull this now? The base name is always going to be packageinfo.name, because whether you're diffing an entire package or a single override, we want the name of the package that the override came from, so you can look at it and know exactly where it came from, like so. And then if not package only, then let's say res name is equal to os.path.basename patch contents 0. Now I think what we're going to do here is I could have swore that there is I would have thought that I had included this somewhere, but I don't remember where. There's an os.path and there's like a POSIX path or something, so, that you can use to be able to, let's go ahead and do this again. Python get POSIX path on Windows. Yeah, but let's say we want to do it in the version of the thing that we actually have here, which is not 3.7, it's 3.3 in Sublime. Even though 3.8 is imminently coming out. And since different operating systems have different pathing conventions, there are several versions of this module. os.path is always the one suitable for the operating system it's running on. However, you can also import and use the individual modules if you want to manipulate a path that's always in one of the different formats. They all have the same interface. POSIX path for Unix style paths. That's what we want. How did that not be found? I could have swore that that was actually, but it's not, huh? We have case sensitive. Yeah. I could have swore that there was something like that in play. So maybe I fiddled it for that instead. Or it's something in here. Implement zip info as a case insensitive. Yeah, nope. Well, import POSIX path. The idea behind that is this doesn't work, but oh yeah, maybe that's why I did do that. Oh no, sorry, yeah. The overrides. That's okay. The idea is we want this to work because overrides in Sublime and all package resources always use POSIX paths, but on Windows, as we can see here, ntpath is what would be used. So if I said import ntpath and said this is what it would do on Windows. That still works. Maybe that's why I didn't do that, because path names actually work that way. All right, well, good enough. I'm happy to remove a README that to do that's not actually something that anybody cares about. Right on. So the base, get the default file name that a patch for the given package info and contents should be saved as. And we will rewrap that. So the default base file name is the name of the package. If this isn't package only, then get the resource name of the very first item, which would be the only thing in the list. If not package only, and len patch contents is greater than 0, do this. Because again, what happens if you try to create a patch for a package that isn't have anything to create a patch for? The patch contents would be done. You don't want to have an error there. In that case, the resource name is the very first item, the base name of that item. But the other thing we want to do is return the directory name. Nope. Split the file name into a path pair where tail is the last path name. Nope. Split drive. Nope. Split extension. Split the file name path into a pair root extension such that root plus extent is pathy. And okay. Yeah. Empty or begins with a period and contains at most one period. Leading periods on the base name are ignored. Okay, so split X is the thing we want. And what we would actually say is os.path.splitExt, like so. And the thing we want is the first one. So the idea here is take the full name of whatever the first override is. In this case, throw the path away, because let's say we don't care about where inside the package, just the name of the file. And if there's more than one file in there, that's probably bad for somebody somewhere, but we don't want our file names to be 500 miles long because there are path name limits. Throw away the extension, that becomes the base, and then base is equal to base plus underscore plus res name. Then that goes away. That goes like so. We return fname, so we don't even need to store it in a variable. We can just return that. Throw that away. Reload the package. It has successfully reloaded. This thing is going to call it and print it. And we're going to reload, and let's see what happens when we do it. If we do it on this and say we want a patch for the default package, the file name we end up with is default.oapatch. Great. If we did it for paste from history, we want this to say default underscore paste underscore from underscore history.oapatch. And we get that very thing. Now we need one where it's all fancy, like this one should have HTML underscore HTML dot patch. And there we go. Maybe we want the actual, you know what? Let's not do the split X thing here. I think that might be a little confusing. I think we want to be able to know that if we did this for pastefromhistory.py, it's default pastefromhistory.py.patch, like that. And if we did it for, whoops, that's not what we want, for this one, then we create patch for this one, we end up with html.html sublime snippet.patch. And it's always that last extension that's going to do it, right? So that's going to give us the file name we want. And that allows us to go back all the way to the thing we were already doing. And that's actually slightly not what we want. Let's see. Yeah, good gravy. Don't do that. Something like this, I suppose. That's reading from the thing. We probably want to do something like that, right? No, this gonna, okay, so yeah, with open fname right encoding equals UTF-8 as patch file. do this. We actually probably want this to be pulled out to here. So we can say os.remove fname. And we might also jump to here and say, does that actually do what I think it does? Remove the path if it's a directory, use remove directory to remove directories. Now, yeah, this is also one of those things. More work has to go into this because we probably want to save this in the temporary folder and then shift it to the appropriate location later, sort of thing. But for now, save it this way. And we might then say window.open file, and that's going to take just the file name, and it's going to be good. It's going to return a view, but we're pretty sure we don't care. And for our purposes, let's say os.remove fname, so these files don't hang around in my home directory. So now, if I closed that and came over to here and said this, create patch for this, there's a default .oa patch file, which doesn't exist and it has nothing in it, but that's okay. It's created the file and shown it to me, which is what we want to have happen after we do this bit. And if we picked it for, say, a file like, well, let's just pick this one, create patch for, we end up with diff sidebar.sublimemenu.patch. And then that file goes away, but the content remains. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and say open the file, then remove it. Remove the file on error. And here we'll say should go into a temporary file first. But we won't worry about that for right now. Should be fairly easy-ish to do. I think there's a move in here. Rename. If dest is a directory, the operation may fail. Recur works like rename, except replace the file or directory source to dest. Okay. One of those operations will do it. We don't need to worry about it right now. We're gonna get that one dialed in here, I think. So we need to remove the magic dot over here. Okay, yeah. Now people are asking if Sublime developers are interested in creating an ARM version so that they can run Sublime on various tablets that don't have Intel processors. And I don't think that's going to happen, or at least John has indicated he's not a super fan of that operation. Now we might go ahead one more time and say def do file patch, and here we would get a handle and a package info and resource. And we would say for res in patch contents, whoops, no, do file patch, providing it the patch file to put the thing in, the package info we were given, and the resource. And now we've broken it down such that given a file handle, generate the appropriate unified diff for the given resource. Now, here's where things get interesting. We have a half an hour to try to pull this off because we wasted so much time fixing the stuff that we did last time that, in fact, didn't work as good as it could have. in that unfortunate kind of way. We need to look in packages.py to see how we're doing this. And we want to look for the reference for this, which is probably somewhere around here. Nope, the other one. This one. Packed content and the unpacked content. And I guess unpacked content always comes out as a list currently. So we could actually copy these two lines like this. Let's see. This is something that could be, I mean, we could actually maybe even use the override diff type stuff here to do this, but we're working through this because there are some other situations that, like we're going to see, for example, this is going to blow up pretty hardcore in the case where we do it for the diff and there's a file that doesn't exist. And it's not self in these cases, it's PackageInfo that gets these, and it's not over the file, it's resource. Resource. Hey. Now, let's say that we forgot how to write something to a file. Yeah, that's okay. That's we don't need to encode it in this case because it's not binary. We can just write the string, right? What was the format that we came up with for this? Whoops. Got too many things going on here. Okay, so what we might say is package version is equal to package. Oh, sorry. I forget the item here. Metadata dot get, and we need to see where self.metadata gets set because I already forget. It should be version, I think, right? Well, we'll find out. And we want to say unknown if we don't know it. Righto. That'll probably just print something, right? Let's test that. Well, we can go ahead and do this, and we can say minus package equals %s minus version equals %s, and then a new line, and then we want to plunk in here packageinfo.name and package version like so. So that is our little header line that we're going to get. And in order to test this, we're going to do it, say, in this package. So let's create a patch for default. Package default version is equal to Sublime 3210. Okay, well, that's pretty close. We expected it to say 3210, but that's doing what we want in that case. It's definitely pulling the appropriate item out. I'm kind of lost in which file I'm looking at here. So that part's good. Now, I guess we need to also junk some extra stuff in here. And now this should, I guess this won't blow up yet because we haven't we haven't done the thing yet, create patch 4. And yeah. Error loading that, can't find the file in Sublime package. I guess we didn't need to print that. But we can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different items here, right? 1, 2, 3. So it's doing that part all right. So what we can do is get rid of that we get the content, we write it. Now, it's not none and, oh, if, how about this? If none not in packed, unpacked, then do this stuff. And this stuff would be doing what this is doing. Which is this. Got to copy these lines so we can actually perform the diff. And we can go ahead and set that to 3. As a matter of fact, I think that's the default. Let's double check that. Boy, I really typed that wrong, didn't I? N equals 3. Right on. Okay, so that we don't even need to provide that in this case, which is an example of why we maybe don't want to use that code. And then we want to file.write u.join indent plus line for line in diff. Yeah, I think that, because I think it returns a list of strings that are magic. But we'll find out because I can't quite remember. It's been a long time since I wrote that code. Create patch for default. We end up with global name file is not defined. What did I do? I'm not surprised. Oh, because it's handle, not file. Sheesh. Create patch for and check that out. Package equals default, version equals Sublime 3210. And there's the context lines and that one item, which is nicely what we would like. And if we were to choose this for the diff package and create the patch for there, we whiff out at some of these items. Why would that be? Handle.write. Cannot find and resource, let's say. Just so we can see what exactly this is doing in this case, because I know it's going to go awry. I think we're ready to turn that off. Can't find. Oh, I forgot to put this thing. The problem with those is, okay. The diff is empty because those diffs are unchanged. Okay. So we want to say if diff, then this, I guess, because we only want that to be written in there in certain cases. So if we do this, close that. Now we're getting somewhere close to this. We can say we want to create a patch for diff, and it can't find diff.sublime settings. There's something we need to do about that, but print resource diff, because it's still not quite picking that up correctly. And you know what else we're going to do? We are going to comment that out, because that part's starting to get a little irritating now. We know that it's doing the right thing for that for now. So what are we ending up? Oh, it's a generator. Right. 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 For our purposes here, let's do that. Turn it into a list so it's not a generator, so we know if it's empty or not, just to see if that is the way forward here. And there we have it. The interesting thing about this, by the way, is that the shipped package has this line in it where the context menu has an ID of diff so that you can tack other things in there. But the version that came out of source control in the packages folder doesn't have it. And as far as I can see, there's never been a commit that actually has that. So I'm not sure how this ended up. But that's the only thing that's different in that package. So that's working good. Let's try one in a package where all the files are there. Package HTML version Sublime 3210, and there's the diff for us. As we can see, it has kept the tabby type stuff. If I guessed settings from buffer, would it say anything? We're not entirely sure how well this would work when there's not a lot of content that's not indented to go on. But it has created the patch for miscellaneous.tm preferences, but it didn't create the other one. Oh, is that because that file doesn't have any changes? We might need to fix that. Let's bulk diff this thing. Let's do the thing that I've been doing all this time. There's no differences here. So let's edit this thing and say that the scope is this. Yeah. Huh. Let's add in an extra style type. Can't type text slash CSS. Just so that there's actually something in there, so that if we said we wanted to create a patch for HTML, like so, we get that item in there, and then we also get this one cranked in as well, which is nice. And there's the tab character in there, and there's the tab character in there. These file names are, oh, this one's, there's also tabs in there, so that is a doing of what we want. As an argument for this, tabs should always be enabled because it's important for the headers to be conveyed properly. Yeah, okay, well, so we've got that doing what we want. Now, what we need to tweak here is, holy crap. Oh, yeah. Do not do that anymore. Can you tell if a generator is going to return nothing? How do I know if a generator is empty from the start? Yeah. How do you know that? Well, there is no simple way. There shouldn't be a simple way. Well, I mean, obviously, because the whole idea is it doesn't generate the values until you ask it. So, yeah, okay. I guess that's probably what we want. You don't want to peek it. That looks dumb. So, yeah, okay, let's assume that's not the case. So let's assume this. We either need to generate the lines identical like in our own loop, or do this. So for our purposes now, let's just do it this way. That seems like a nice way to go. Because it is nice that that is a generator. Actually, since I said that other thing, how does this know if the diff is empty? I assume it does it in a way similar to what I just did there. It joins it and sees if the result is an empty string, which is exactly what we're doing here. So, all right. And it looks like we do get the headers we want out of this, right? Because I think the information that these methods return does what we want in that case. So let's say we want to create a patch for that. There's the shipped package. Here's the actual output file. It would be nice if this metadata information didn't have the Sublime here in it. But what are you going to do, right? Here's something to try, just to verify things. This is actually a package that's installed by the thing. So this is Package Resource Viewer version 1.1.0. So yippity yoop, that is working nicely. If we didn't remove the file, that would be even nicer, right? But like I said, I don't want to have a ton of OA patch files littering my home directory. It's nice that the appropriate syntax is applying, though. Now, if there's no difference, do this. Now, here's the thing. If there is a packed file, but there's not an unpacked file, what does that mean? Now, what we're doing here is we're saying if none isn't in packed and unpacked, so it has to have loaded data from the Sublime package file and from the unpacked folder. And if it didn't get both of those, it can't do anything. It just cannot find, which in our case for the diff is just for the diff.sublime settings. But what if unpacked was empty? In that case, we definitely can't generate a patch if there's no packed, right? So we could say print unpacked just to see. I'm pretty sure it's a tuple. Let's do it for something tiny, like I don't even know what. This one, I suppose. We end up with the first item being the list of contents, then the second one being the resource name, and the third one being a date. So if we said if unpacked is none, unpacked is equal to a tuple, where the tuple in the first item is just an empty list, i.e. there's no content in this thing. And the second item was the name of the resource. which I guess would be packages slash %s/%s, and we mod in here packageinfo.name and resource, because that's what the other thing does. We can't just use the one from packed because that uses shipped or installed in order to figure which of those items it is. And if the last item here was, I don't know, with current date, how did this thing do it? That's what we're looking towards here. When we asked the system diff to do this, it came up with the epoch time. So just to see if this is even going to do what we want, let's go ahead and just crang in. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I thought I copied this. Copy that and paste it in here. We did that. I think that means close that one without saving it. If we did the diff here, maybe we even do it this way instead because it might be a little easier. Create patch 4. Oh, there's no unpacked. Sorry, oh, I did that the wrong way. Crap. If packed is none. If there's a file in the unpacked folder and not in the packed folder. Yeah, okay. Now that part might be wrong. Well, we'll worry about that in a moment. See if this actually does anything first. If we do it for this and say create patch, there we go. Now, clearly, that line is not the one we want. We want it to say shipped packages or installed packages, depending on the type of package the package is. But that does do what we want for that. So the first thing we need to do here is remember how it works in bulk diff. So if we did this, it's shipped packages or installed packages, but not both. So that's shipped packages, and here it is, if we do this, oops, it's installed packages. So let's close that, and let's close that because that's mostly doing what we want. We want %s packages, shipped packages or installed packages, and this is shipped if package info dot shipped else installed, and that. Now let's see, that seems to load. So let's see if I do this for default and say create, oh sorry, can't do that. If I did here like this, create patch for this. Oh shoot, I guessed wrong. Package info, what's the thing called? Shipped path? Yeah, okay. Do. Reload that. So we come back to here. Now the whole idea of this is we want the diff to appear the same for everything. So if I do this and say create patch for this entire package, what we end up with is knowing that this is a shipped package, so that looks the same. That's what the file would have looked like in shipped packages. But what we really want to know is that, and it's adding all 3 of those lines. So at the empty position in the source file, starting at line 1 for 3 lines, tang these 3 lines in, and our patch application tool could know that it needs to do something or not with that as appropriate, and the other thing is there. Now, in order to verify that this works, we need to go to the package resource viewer, package and touch. Okay. I am a line of sample text. And get rid of that. So now, if we do this and say we want to do something in here, we end up with installed packages, package resource viewer, sample text going into that file with I am a line of text, and it is one line with no context. Fantastical. And the last thing we need to do here, and I can't remember, we're definitely going to want this bit. Whoops. And we're going to say nope. Really? Shoo. Am I in the right place here? No. No wonder that didn't work. Is there a datetime in here? Yes. I was in the wrong thing, I think. From timestamp. Get unpacked. And yeah, okay. So we probably want something like that. Bow. The packed override contents is, oh yeah, do it like that. Let's try this. From datetime import datetime. Yeah, that's what I thought. Datetime.from timestamp. That is what we want. From datetime import. From timestamp. Yeah, let's just import datetime here. Like so, come down to the appropriate locale for this and say datetime.from timestamp 0 because we want it to be the epoch dot stirf time this so that it looks the same as everywhere else as far as dates are concerned. So if we said we want to create a patch for this, module object has none, huh? Oh, okay, I guess I did need it that way. From datetime, import datetime. All right, it's a funky module, I guess. Okay, so here we go. Create patch for shipped package at the epoch, sorta, but it's adjusted for my current time zone. And there's that one. The timestamps don't mean as much to us here as they would in other tools. So we're pretty close to exactly what we want here. Now, the last thing to verify is what happens if you try to remove an entire file. So if I was to edit this override and do that, and I said diff override this, we end up with those lines being gone, all of them being gone. That part's right. This part's arguably, well, I guess it's still right. That's not how this one worked, right? The delete of the file thinks the file that's no longer there should have a timestamp that's in the past because it's no longer there. in our purposes, we can't actually delete the file. We just have to remove all the lines and leave it empty because an override can't be used to remove a file. It can only be used to block contents. So if we create a patch for this, we end up with what is the appropriate information, and all those lines are gone. So that is fantastical as far as I'm concerned. I could do this and say create patch for diff. And the patch is I added that file and I removed that. Technically, that is pretty darn neat. Okay, so let's say we also edited this and we said, because this is something that should probably also happen, if you were going to diff a file, you should say v.settings.set translate, oh sorry, translate tabs to spaces false. And we would also want to do the same thing here. And this isn't anything to do with our test here per se. Maybe we'll move that up one. No, yeah, do it after. So after it assigns the syntax, force that in for our purposes, just for right now, because this is some part of a PR I've been sort of working on to fix, or quote unquote, finger quote, fix the diff support. Because if you have translate tabs to spaces turned on when you use Sublime's this thing here, if it's in here, I can't remember where it is now. Show unsaved changes. Well, I guess because I saved it, there isn't any. But it needs to make sure that translate tabs to spaces is turned off. So now we're going to create a patch for diff. And here's the thing, we added the content in this file, we deleted the content in that file, and we added some lines in there. And that is 94, 11 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, well, 13 technically based on that one, but it was 11 plus the 2 for 13. So we have that doing pretty much what we want. I mean, I think what we might want to do is get rid of that for one thing. And let's get rid of this, because now that really shouldn't happen. If packed is none, we're going to cram that in. If unpacked is none, well, just don't do anything, because the only way that could happen is in between the time we collected the information and started generating this diff, something went in and started fiddling around with the content on the disk. And I don't know that that's anything we want to necessarily care about. Now, all of this stuff in here that we have worked on needs to go into the core, and it could probably be combined together nicely. Other changes have to happen here. For example, this shouldn't be using your user path. There should be a setting that you set in your settings that says where should the default location for putting patches be, and that location should be like your desktop. We'll see how package control does that, because it has a similar setting for itself. That's going to give us our base file name. That should be part of the core. Do file patch should probably be part of create patch as sort of an inlined, instead of calling do file patch, it could just be doing this inside that loop, or this function could be nested inside this one. The file name that we create should be in the temporary directory, and only after the patch has been successfully created, blop it in here. This also is doing this. Should detect if a file is binary and add it to a sidecar file, which is something we're not doing here yet. That would be like if you're created an override on a and a theme that had PNG files in it, then you can't diff PNG files. We'd have to base 64 encode it as some sort of creepy patch and try to fiddle it. I think I want to, instead of doing that, create a sidecar file. We'll see how that works out. Maybe we'll end up trying to base 64 encode and create the world's most complicated patch mechanism so it can be contained in a text file. But that's what this has to do. I like that it's opening it, and what it should also do is it gets the default file name. It should prompt you down in this area here for the name, give you the default name already injected in there, allow you to modify it. That, though, is the basis of what I wanted to get done tonight. We actually could have gone maybe even a little bit farther with some of that stuff if we hadn't had all that other testing. But yeah, we totally have the ability to create a patch for stuff. Now, what we're ending up here with here is um, there's nothing to patch in this particular thing here because that file should be, I think you'll notice, no differences found. So something else we might want to add here is track if the patch ends up empty, delete it if it does, so that we don't get to see, you don't get to see that very thing. In that case, this one is an example of one where it would work. And we create a patch of that, and there we go, which is exactly identical to the diff display, except for uh, this extra line at the top here. And we could also even do it this way. We could say, create a patch for a single file. And what single file? The diff.py. Oh, there it is. That's working. Or we want to create a patch for the entire package, and the package is package resource viewer. And there we go. So that is doing a lot of what we want. We're going to call this stream now. We have gone ever so slightly over, but if you have been, thank you so much for watching. And remember, as always, if you would like to join the live stream and ask questions, please feel free to do so. Live streams happen every Tuesday at 8 p.m. PST. Unfortunately, I don't have any other free time to do something like that. So if that time works out for you and you'd like to pop in, say hi, ask questions, point and laugh when I have obvious bugs, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions or comments on the content of this, if you've watched it after the fact, you can leave those down in the comment section below. And of course, as always, if you have any questions or comments on this or any of the videos on this channel or my other channel, linked down in the description. And there's a topic in Sublime Text you'd like me to cover in a live stream, you could ask me the question there, but if you'd like instead to see a video on the alternate channel, you can send those suggestions into the comment section on any video on either of the channels, or you can tweet those suggestions to OdatNurd on Twitter. And that is going to do it for this live stream. So thank you so much. Until next week's live stream, this is OdatNurd asking all of you out there in Sublime Text land to have a sublime day.